When the Take It Down Act ensnared an innocent Texan's life, Jasmine Crockett confronted Senator Ted Cruz, turning a quiet committee hearing into a viral showdown over digital rights and government overreach. Within minutes, clips of the exchange were rocketing across social media, igniting furious debate. #DigitalFreedom and #Crockett vs. Cruz began trending, with millions of views pouring in, showing a nation captivated by the raw confrontation. News anchors scrambled to cover the unfolding drama, and commentators on every major network began dissecting the implications of the Take It Down Act in real time, its supposed benefits now overshadowed by the human cost laid bare. 48 hours earlier, Senator Cruz had been basking in the glow of legislative success. The Take It Down Act, his signature bill, had just passed, signed into law by President Trump. It was hailed as a monumental victory against the rising tide of deepfakes and non-consensual intimate imagery. In his private office overlooking the Capitol, Cruz reviewed the positive press, a satisfied smile playing on his lips. "Flawless," he'd remarked to his chief of staff, tapping a news article. "We've given victims the tools, and we've put the onus squarely on these platforms. No more turning a blind eye." His confidence was palpable. An almost impenetrable shield built from legislative victories and a seemingly unshakable public image. He saw the upcoming Senate Commerce Committee hearing on digital privacy and consumer protection as a mere formality, an opportunity to further champion his bill and dismiss any lingering criticisms as partisan noise. Meanwhile, in her more modest congressional office, Representative Jasmine Crockett was poring over documents that told a very different story. Her phone buzzed constantly with updates from Dallas. The case of Sarah Jenkins, a graphic designer from Fort Worth, had landed on her desk 2 days prior, a desperate plea for help. Sarah, a single mother, was facing severe legal penalties under the newly enacted Take It Down Act because of a deepfake image that had appeared online. It wasn't revenge porn. It was an altered image of her at a protest, manipulated to appear as if she was engaging in illegal activity. The original image, entirely innocuous, had been taken from her public social media. The deepfake, however, had gone viral, and despite Sarah's immediate attempts to have it removed, the digital forensics required to prove its artificial nature were complex and costly, far beyond her means. Law enforcement, operating under the broad definitions of the new act, had moved swiftly, charging her with dissemination of harmful content because the deepfake had caused public disruption and incited false accusations against her. Felt a surge of cold fury mixed with a familiar, quiet determination. This wasn't about deepfakes as revenge porn, but about the chilling effect on ordinary citizens. Caught in the crosshairs of a law designed with good intentions but crafted with dangerous imprecision, she saw in Sarah's plight a perfect illustration of how easily a powerful piece of legislation, when unchecked, could trample individual liberties. Crockett knew she had to highlight this, not just for Sarah, but for every other American who could be similarly ensnared. The Senate Commerce Committee hearing would be her battlefield. She decided to bring not just the case details, but the actual tools that had created Sarah's deepfake readily available, non-illicit software easily accessible to anyone. She wasn't just going to debate policy, she was going to demonstrate. The chilling reality of it, the Senate Commerce Committee hearing room was buzzing with subdued anticipation. Senator Cruz, seated at the head of the dais, exuded an air of calm authority as he opened the discussion on digital privacy. He spoke with practiced ease, citing statistics on online harms and reiterating the Take It Down Act's role as a bulwark against digital exploitation. "This legislation," he proclaimed, leaning into the microphone, "is a triumph for victims. It provides a clear pathway for individuals to reclaim their digital integrity." He then gestured to a large screen displaying the Act's official seal. "It is, in its core, flawless in its execution, designed to protect, not to persecute." Congresswoman Crockett, seated among the panel of invited experts, waited patiently. Her turn came after several minutes of Cruz's self-congratulatory remarks and prepared questions from allied senators. When recognized, her voice was clear and direct, cutting through the self-assured tone of the room. "Thank you, Senator. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this vital issue. While the intentions behind the Take It Down Act are certainly commendable, I must raise serious concerns regarding its practical application and the unintended yet devastating consequences for ordinary Americans." Cruz interjected, a slight frown creasing his brow. "Congresswoman, with all due respect, the act underwent rigorous review. We consulted with leading experts in digital forensics and privacy law. If there are consequences, as you suggest, they are likely the result of an individual's own actions, or perhaps a misunderstanding of the law's clear parameters." The implication hung in the air. Sarah Jenkins's legal woes were her own fault. Crockett's eyes met his. "Unwavering, Senator, I believe the facts will speak for themselves. I want to draw the committee's attention to the case of Sarah Jenkins, a constituent of mine currently facing charges under the Take It Down Act. Her alleged offense: the dissemination of harmful content via a deepfake." She paused, letting the words sink in. This deepfake, Senator, was not created with sophisticated illicit tools. It was created with readily available open-source software, accessible to anyone with an internet connection. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Cruz shifted in his seat, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. "Congresswoman, I fail to see the relevance. The act targets non-consensual and harmful content. The method of creation is immaterial if the content itself is unlawful. It is entirely material. Senator, when we consider the burden of proof and the potential for abuse," Crockett countered, her voice gaining intensity, "Ms. Jenkins is an innocent citizen. The original image was benign. The deepfake, which falsely depicted her engaging in illegal activity, was designed to discredit her. She immediately attempted to have it removed, but the technical and financial hurdles were insurmountable for a working single mother. She then did something unexpected. With the committee's permission, I'd like to demonstrate the ease with which such digital forgeries can be created." A technician, at a signal from Crockett's aide, brought forward a laptop. On the large screen behind them, a simple interface appeared. "This is a publicly available deepfake application," Crockett explained, navigating the software with practiced clicks. She uploaded a generic stock photo of a person. "Watch closely, Senator." With a few adjustments, the image on the screen morphed, subtly altering the individual's expression, then their clothing, and finally placing them in a completely different, compromising scenario. The entire process took less than 30 seconds. This, Senator, is not the work of criminal masterminds. This is consumer-grade technology. The room was silent. Even Cruz leaned forward, his dismissive posture replaced by a tight-lipped focus. "Now, imagine this," Crockett continued, her voice resonating through the hushed chamber, applied to a photograph of an ordinary citizen like Sarah Jenkins. A photograph they willingly shared, perhaps from a family vacation or a community event. And then, without their knowledge or consent, it is transformed into something malicious, something that destroys their reputation, leads to criminal charges, and tears their life apart. She turned to address Cruz directly, her gaze piercing. "The Take It Down Act, Senator, in its broad strokes and lack of specific safeguards, has made it easier for bad actors to weaponize digital content against innocent people, and then, paradoxically, made it harder for those victims to clear their names. You claim the act is flawless in its execution, yet it has ensnared an innocent Texan precisely because of its design. It prioritizes the speed of removal over the accuracy of identification, creating a legal minefield for those who are targeted," Cruz stammered, attempting to regain control. "Congresswoman, the act contains provisions for due process. If Ms. Jenkins is indeed innocent, the courts will recognize that. The courts, Senator, are a slow and expensive recourse," Crockett shot back, her voice rising slightly. "Ms. Jenkins faces immediate legal and financial ruin. Her child is at risk. Your flawless act has turned her life upside down, not because of what she did, but because of what was done to her, and because of the incredible difficulty of proving her innocence against a digital fabrication. The act's language is so broad, so all-encompassing, that it criminalizes content without adequately distinguishing between genuine malice and the potential for malicious creation by third parties." She laid down a thick binder. "Here, Senator, are the police reports, the court filings, and a sworn affidavit from Ms. Jenkins, detailing every desperate attempt she made to get this deepfake taken down, attempts that were met with bureaucratic walls, and technical jargon. The Take It Down Act promised a solution, but for Sarah Jenkins, it became the problem. The weight of the evidence, coupled with Crockett's direct, impassioned delivery, hung heavy in the air. The weight of the evidence, coupled with Crockett's direct, impassioned delivery, hung heavy in the air. He opened his mouth, then closed it, searching for a rebuttal that wouldn't sound like a concession. He knew his carefully constructed image of the Take It Down Act as an unassailable shield for victims was cracking under the weight of Sarah Jenkins's very real, very public suffering. The committee room, typically a theater of measured political discourse, had been transformed into a stark arena where legislative theory met human wreckage. Crockett's demonstration, a blunt, undeniable display of accessible technology, had stripped away the comfortable layers of legal jargon and revealed the raw, vulnerable underbelly of a hastily conceived law. The silence that followed her final, the statement, was deafening. Developments, the aftermath was immediate and explosive. By the time Congresswoman Crockett exited the hearing room, her phone was vibrating incessantly. News alerts flashed across every screen in the hallway, displaying headlines like Crockett blasts, Cruz over deepfake law, and Take It Down Acts, Dark Side exposed. The video clip of her demonstrating the deepfake software and her direct challenge to Cruz went viral within minutes. #StandWithSarah trended alongside #CrocketForJustice. The public reaction was a torrent of outrage and support. Legal experts debated the broadness of the AHC's language. For Crockett, the victory felt hollowed by exhaustion. The adrenaline of the confrontation drained from her, leaving a profound weariness. She retreated to her office, the buzz of activity outside feeling like a distant hum. Her legislative aide brought her a lukewarm coffee and a stack of messages, but Crockett could only stare at the wall. The public attention, while validating, brought its own insidious cost. Threatening messages began to trickle in, vile comments from anonymous accounts accusing her of siding with criminals or undermining national security. Her personal phone, usually reserved for family, rang with calls from worried relatives. That evening, back in her modest Washington, D.C. apartment, the weariness intensified. She tried to unwind, but the image of Sarah Jenkins's desperate face, as seen in the affidavit, was seared into her mind. The weight of responsibility pressed down on her. Her sister, calling from Texas, sounded frantic. "Jasmine, are you safe? These messages online, they're terrifying." Crockett forced a reassuring tone, though her own stomach churned. "I'm fine, sis. Just keyboard warriors. It comes with the territory." But as she hung up, she felt the isolation keenly. The fight was far from over, and the personal toll was already mounting. Sleep offered little reprieve, punctuated by fragmented dreams of digital shadows and legal documents. The weight of Sarah's future, and the potential for countless others to fall victim to the very law designed to protect them, rested squarely on Crockett's shoulders. Each morning, she woke with a dull ache in her temples, the relentless pace of the fight against a powerful system beginning to fray at her edges. The public spotlight was a double-edged sword, illuminating the injustice but also exposing her to the darkest corners of online hatred. She had to remind herself, daily, that this was bigger than her own discomfort. It was about principle. Just over 2 weeks later, an unexpected ally emerged, shifting the public debate in a crucial way. Dr. Eris Thorne, a renowned computer science professor from MIT and a leading voice in AI ethics, published an op-ed in the New York Times. Dr. Thorne, a known proponent of robust AI development, focusing on its potential to combat genuine malicious deepfakes. However, his article, titled "The Unseen Casualties of Digital Legislation," explicitly cited Sarah Jenkins's case and Congresswoman Crockett's committee testimony. When a law designed to curb abuse inadvertently criminalizes innocence, Thorne wrote, "We have not achieved justice. We have simply shifted the burden onto the most vulnerable." Congresswoman Crockett's demonstration of easily accessible deepfake tools underscored a critical flaw: the act's reliance on a reactive takedown mechanism without sufficient provisions for verifying content authenticity or protecting those falsely accused. His article validated Crockett's arguments from a neutral, highly respected scientific perspective. His support was a game changer. lending credibility to the push for reform from a voice beyond the usual political divisions. Emboldened by Thorne's intervention and the sustained public outcry, Congresswoman Crockett held a press conference on the steps of the Capitol, the wind whipping at her hair. Her voice, though tired, carried a new conviction. 2 weeks ago, she began, I stood in a committee room and showed how easily a deepfake can be created. And the principled stand of experts, like Dr. Eris Thorne, the nation understands. The stakes. The Take It Down Act was passed with good intentions, but its execution has proven to be deeply flawed, jeopardizing the very freedoms it was meant to protect. It places an undue burden on innocent citizens, demanding they prove a negative that an image is not real in the face of overwhelming digital evidence designed to mislead. This is not about being for or against technology. It is about ensuring that our laws reflect the reality of the digital age without sacrificing fundamental rights. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the reporters. We must amend this act. We must introduce clear, verifiable standards for content authenticity. We must provide legal and technical assistance to those wrongly accused. And most importantly, we must ensure that the rapid advancement of technology is met not with panic that protect both victims and the innocent. My fight is for Sarah and for every American who deserves to live free from the fear of digital fabrication, and free from laws that criminalize their very existence online. Her words were concise, powerful, and resonated far beyond the confines of Washington. She had defined the principle, not just digital safety, but digital justice, across the country. In a small apartment in Fort Worth, Sarah Jenkins watched the press conference live on her tablet, her hand clutching a well-worn stress ball. The past 2 weeks had been a blur of legal consultations, media inquiries, and the crushing anxiety of an uncertain future. The viral video of Crockett's hearing testimony had brought a wave of unexpected public support, but also a renewed intensity to the legal proceedings. Yet seeing Congresswoman Crockett stand there, resolute, speaking her name, articulating the precise injustice she faced, it was someone fighting for her, recognizing her struggle not as a personal failing, but as a systemic one. That night, after putting her son to bed, Sarah opened her laptop, not to check legal updates, but to search. She found a local community group online dedicated to digital literacy and online safety. It was a small group just starting, but their mission resonated deeply. For weeks, she had felt like a victim, isolated and helpless against a vast, impersonal legal machine. Now, watching Crockett, she felt a spark of something else: agency. The next morning, she attended their virtual meeting. She introduced herself. My name is Sarah Jenkins, and I'm the woman caught by the Take It Down Act. I want to help. I want to tell my story, teach others about deepfakes, about how easily this can happen. Her voice was clear, her resolve firm. She started volunteering, sharing her experience, advocating for education on digital manipulation, and explaining the nuances of the Take It Down Act from the perspective of someone living its harsh reality. Her personal ordeal, fueled by Crockett's public stand, inspiring others in her community to be more vigilant, more informed, and more active in demanding sensible digital policy. The echoes of that congressional showdown, born from a quiet committee room, were now reverberating through the everyday lives of ordinary Americans, creating a ripple effect of awareness and empowerment that stretched far beyond the political headlines. What happens when laws meant to protect us become the very instruments of our undoing? And how much responsibility do we, as citizens, bear in demanding that our digital world remain a place of freedom, not fear? Subscribe to stay informed on the evolving landscape of digital rights and the battles being fought for them every day.